Can you afford this stuff in your budget, family? Can you afford it? And yes, and there are people who can. But I guess the question becomes, can you comfortably afford it? Can you sacrifice part of your rent to be able to pay for a pet? Can you sacrifice part of your food budget? Is it going to keep you from getting your car repaired? I know when I was in my I was in my mid 20s, and it was a mistake on my end. I bought a little puppy, not really understanding just how much work a puppy is, and I had to give it up after 3 weeks. I couldn't deal with it. I didn't have the resources. All right, folks, I got some apple pie here in the background. I know my bunny ears cut off most of it, but it is apple pie, in case you're wondering what we're looking at. And Post Milton, thank you for all your love and prayers. We're going to look at some TikToks on pet ownership. And I love pets, and I've had pets, and I'll talk about my experiences with pets as we go through this. All right, so let's take a look at some pet TikToks. Thank you so much for being here with me this Saturday evening. Okay, for those who can't see the screen, I almost got lost in my dancing here. There's a cat grooming itself in the closet, and the screen says, just spent $200 for the vet to tell me she's got a secret peeing spot somewhere that I can't find. Now, for those who say pets don't cost any money, I don't think people think that pets don't cost any money. I think what happens is people think that pets oftentimes are supposed to fit into their budget really nicely. And then when it doesn't, it's like, oh my gosh, So $200 to just give your pet to say, hey, they like to basically pee in your house. Okay.
Our Binksy boy has been limping and he's been to the vet already, but after 10 days of rest and medication, we haven't seen that much improvement. So we're on our way to see if we can get an x-ray and see if there's anything else we can do for him. At the first appointment that we had for Binks, he did not get any x-rays based on the symptoms, but since there was no improvement, we decided to go ahead and get him x-rays. 2 x-rays and $229 later, we confirmed that it's not broken and he just needs more rest and more medication to allow for that tissue to heal itself.
So $229, I'm assuming, does not include the medication also. I know people get upset, annoyed when they didn't even do anything. They just looked at the pet and said nothing wrong. Because deep down inside, all right, we don't want anything to be wrong. But at the same time, we're fighting with ourselves and going, at least let something be wrong. Nothing too serious. But don't make me feel like I just walked in there and paid $200 to, say, hey, nothing's wrong. It's like we're kind of emotionally torn, right? I've had pets my entire life, almost my entire life.
I'm sorry.
Okay, this is a cat. And the screen says when the vet bill came out to $500 something for her little baby shots. Yes, the kitten shots.
I don't have any. I'm a little baby. I'm a baby. I have no money. I can pay you in blocks? No.
Tell me you don't work in vet med without telling me you don't work in vet med.
All right, on this one, somebody wrote on the TikTok screen, a commenter wrote in the upper screen, y'all are the bad guys. Emergency vets overcharge so much. My dog needed stitches. $500 at emergency vet, $120 at our regular vet. Now, before this woman even speaks, I think we know that emergency vets are always going to be more expensive than your regular vet. But if you feel it is something that cannot wait, right, and the pet you are responsible for, it's a member of your family, right? So I think we get annoyed because we want that pet to fit so conveniently to some extent in our life. We want it to fit financially into our life. And I think we forget at times that pets are like little children and they cost money, and sometimes they cost a lot of money.
You'll go first. Do you want to know why your visit was $500 at an emergency vet as opposed to $120 at your primary? Because it's an emergency room. You would be paying the same amount for yourself to go to a human hospital as an emergency.
And she's right. I think my hospital emergency is $500 deductible. I believe that if I go to, because I called once, and they said it's $500 to go to an in-house emergency, on the approved list. And so I said to them, well, what the bejesus am I supposed to do if, let's say, I'm in Oregon and I'm not at an approved center? Now, check with your insurance, check with your medical insurance provider. But I know with most insurance, check with yours. If it is something that is truly an emergency that cannot wait, they will often honor the emergency. But it better be an emergency. And what's considered an emergency, who knows? But check with your provider.
You just have health insurance, and that covers the brunt of it. Medical care is the same price. Those supplies are the same price, but you're paying for your doctor's time. You're paying for sedation. It's going to be more at the ER because it's an emergency situation. You are being seen without an appointment. You're taking time away from other patients that might be dying or need care more than your dog that needs stitches.
Now, I'll be honest, I, at the gym, probably about 5 years ago, this is before I bought the condo, so it was before COVID, about a year before COVID hit, figure about 2019. This is the state of our medical care. I had an accident at the gym, got hit on the forehead by a pull-down bar, and it swung down and whacked me. I bled for 5 hours. 5. Yes, hours. That's not a mistake. And I was so nervous about going to the emergency room. This is the state of America's medical care. Not to get off on that topic, but I sat outside emergency because it was going to be a $500 deductible. Now keep in mind, and this is 2019, so I'm still carrying student loan. I'm renting, yada yada, and I wasn't quite sure what the deductible was going to be, but I figured around 500. But I was even more scared that they would do a whole bunch of tests that I really wasn't going to need. Some of those tests might not be covered. And I was just scared to death of an absolutely humongous medical bill. So I drove myself twice to emergency. I kid you not. And I sat in the parking lot. And you can't tell me, family, and I'm not the only person who's ever done that. I actually sat in the parking lot crying because I was bleeding from my forehead. And I was just holding a rag and then going back home, holding a rag. It just wouldn't stop bleeding because it was right on my forehead. And finally, I think it was like at hour 4. Okay, I make my second trip down. Yes, 4 or 5 hours, okay? And I talked to the doctor and I literally said, I don't want to be billed for anything, so don't do anything for me. But tell me, what can you do? Now, is that messed up? Yeah. And so he just looked at it and he says, well, it will stop in time, but we may need to do a CAT scan, yada, yada. And I said, never mind. And I actually left. And about an hour later, into the 5th hour, it stopped. Went to Walmart, got some Neosporin. And then my principal looked at me the next day and she's like, why are you even at work? Because it is what it is. But when we talk about emergency rooms, it doesn't matter if it's for a person or a pet. If you really want to get down to it, it's a living thing. All right? It's a living thing, period. So emergency is emergency. But you really do have to weigh, can you afford an emergency room? I've known people, with thousands of dollars in ER visits. So you have to weigh it.
If your dog could have waited to go to your emergency vet, which it sounds like you did, why did you even bother going to the emergency vet? Because you were entitled and you wanted to get seen right then and there.
And she probably got there, found out how much it was going to be. And just like with me, the human said, oh, I don't want to pay all that. I regret that I did it that way. I should have just gone and faced the music and paid the $500. But it is what it is. But apparently her dog wasn't needing it that much. If you can, I actually need it. Don't get me wrong. I think bleeding for 5 hours is a long time. And hurting for 5 hours, all right? But if she could walk away from the vet, then her pet apparently didn't need it. Or maybe she was in the same financial position I was in. And she knew the dog needed it. It's so tough, guys. There's no easy answers about medical care. I would not bleed again for 5 hours, so I'll tell you that. Next time my butt's going to the ER, if that's what it comes down to. But the trick, at least here in Tampa, is the urgent care clinics. They usually close after 8 o'clock. So don't have any emergencies after 8. I don't know what time veterinarians hold it, but make sure your dog has an emergency before your vet closes.
The entitlement of these clients baffles me. I hope you enjoyed that $300 in savings.
So my dog ate 5 of my used tampons out
Yes, you heard that correctly. 5 used. Oh, jeez. Shudder the thought. I apologize if you're eating.
of my bathroom trash can. Man in question.
That pooch is so cute.
Man is now heavily sedated because he just spent $700 at the vet to make sure he wasn't dying. We went, mind you, on Sunday. Today's Tuesday. We went on Sunday to get him checked out, and he was causing problems. He was lethargic. Go in. They do sedation, x-ray panels, and they're like, actually, like, he should pass it. Everything should be fine. I'm in, and I wanted to be safer than sorry because I didn't want him to die because
Well, and part of the problem is if you think about women's feminine products, they're cotton and they can expand, and that could potentially cause issues, but apparently not this time.
if he died, I don't know if I could live. And they're like, go home, he should be fine, unless he starts like vomiting, or if you see blood in his stool. And so I was like, okay, slay. We go home, he's fine. It's Tuesday morning. I wake up, I'm ready for the school day. There's an accident in my living room, everywhere. He throws up twice, all before I take him out for the first time in the morning, which is within 20 minutes of me getting out of bed. So we come to the hospital today. You should like comment and share this video so I can afford his vet bills because
$1,100. You got $1,100 for doggy accidents? I know people say get pet insurance. I've not heard anything great about pet insurance. So maybe if you know anything about pet insurance, what does it cover? Leave it in the comments. I know nothing about pet insurance. So if anyone's ever had pet insurance, perhaps you could enlighten us in the comments with, would it cover? What does pet insurance cover? I could not tell you. I've never had it.
I just had to take $1,100 out of my savings account to pay for everything for him.
For a lot of people, that $1,100 would be the equivalent of, well, I don't know if today would be the equivalent of rent, but it would be a good portion of your rent. This is called having a pet. They're just like children. I remember being a kid and hanging upside down on the crossbars. You know, you're supposed to loop your leg from one bar to the other, and then you let go because you make sure your legs are all looped into the bar. You know, the monkey bars to hang upside down. Well, stupid me didn't check to see that my feet apparently did not hit the other side of the, the monkey bars because I was too small. But I was too stupid to see that I wasn't secured to the bar. I let go, slammed on my shoulder, and we were at ER that evening. That's how fast it happens, as you know. Same thing with pets. The same thing with pets.
Them to just tell me he's gonna be fine. Hey. He's so loopy right now from his sedation. He's gonna go home and take a fat nap. Boop.
Okay, this one here, for those who can't see the screen, there's a beautiful black and white cat at the bottom of the bed, and it says, $800 vet visit only to tell me he's constipated. Now this has got to be one of my favorites. All right, there's just something about that. Basically, your pet has gas. $800, and they probably did everything short of a brain scan.
Is $1,000 a lot to pay to get your dog spayed? Because I feel like that's a lot of money.
I know when I got my Chihuahua spayed, I was married at the time, we did not go to a standard vet. Oftentimes you can call the Humane Society and they can hook you with county services and even other rescue programs that have access to really low cost spay neutering. So I know people get really attached to their vet, and that's a personal decision to take them to Hey, fancy vet, whatever, okay? But by no means was I in a position where I could have paid $1,000 to spay, neuter. I can never remember which is the cat and which is the dog. I know, hey, I don't claim to know everything. All I know is that spaying and neutering deals with dogs and cats. I just can never remember which one goes with which. So, like I said, I don't claim to know everything, family, all right? But when we had to go get our dog spayed or neutered, because I don't know which one's which, but we had to make sure that he wasn't running around wild, right? And we actually took him to a county, what is it? Sort of like a county clinic. So that can save you hundreds, not just a few dollars, family, hundreds.
And granted, the procedure itself was not $1,000. There was an intake appointment for $200 to do blood work and like an initial health exam. And then the day of the procedure, there was a whole list of things that they did, and that cost $850, which I just still feel like is a lot. On top of that, Freya is now leaking from her incision site like a pussy, milky pink substance. So we took her to the urgent vet last night because it was Sunday. That was another $200.
Ching, ching, ching. If I had my soundboard, we'd just be running this up. Come to think of it, you know what? I think you neuter. Hey, so a dog? A dog is neutered and a cat is spayed. I think dogs are neutered and cats are spayed. I hope I got that right. Oh, jeez. Forgive me if I'm a little bit off on that. Yeah, so you just keep ringing up. Yeah, just keep ringing the change machine. Do you have all this money? Do you have this? And maybe you've been very fortunate to have a pet that hasn't cost you a lot of money. But what are you going to do when there comes a time where it might cost you? What are your plans? And we're even talking, it could cost you end of life stuff too. It's not always about just, keeping them alive and what that costs. But what happens if you have to make plans for, end of life care? What do you want and stuff? I mean, it's they're little mini humans. I know they're not humans, okay, but you understand what I'm saying. They're a member of the family. They have to be taken care of. It's not free.
And now we're going back to our primary vet today so that they can take a look at what is happening. And if they charge me more for this visit, my head is going to explode.
I have one of my best friends in the world who lives in Phoenix. She actually told me just a couple months ago, she said she went to, I guess it was a new vet, okay, because she had moved and stuff. And so she went to a vet, and on the not the application, but the medical history and stuff you have to fill out for your pet. I kid you not. She called me up and she goes, Carrie, one of the questions on the history of the animal, one of the questions they asked her was, how much do you love your pet? You heard that correctly. That was actually one of the questions on the pre-questionnaire, that form that you have to fill out, was how much do you love your pet? And she called me, she goes, what should I put on it? And I would say it's none of their business. And here's why. First off, I told her don't go to a place like that. But the second is this: no owner, in my opinion, should be guilted into having to say that they love their pet so that the vet charges them more. No, I am not saying all veterinarians do this. As a matter of fact, one of my childhood best friends worked with veterinarians and stuff when she was in high school. So I am not saying that all vets do this. But this particular vet office in Phoenix that she went to actually had on that question, how much do you love your pet? And I said to her, that is none of their business, because what they're trying to associate it with, in my opinion, is they want to see how much they can price gouge you for. And again, it's not saying all veterinarians price gouge. But the fact that somebody would say, how much do you love your pet? I mean, when parents go in to get the medical checkup on their children, is there a spot that says, and how much do you love your child? Well, I love my child a whole lot. Oh, great. Well, then we're going to do everything we can for medical services. Well, I don't love my child on Saturdays and Sundays after 8 p.m. Oh, great. Well, we know that we can't take you all for what it's worth financially. I don't understand why that question was there. So if anybody knows that perhaps is in the veterinarian world, or you just happen to know, why would a vet ask, how much do you love your pet? Because I'm going to give the best medical care that I can afford. But what I can afford may be very different than what someone else can afford. I knew a lady about 20 years ago. I was married and we went to her house and we were doing some culinary service for her and stuff. And she paid around $6,000 to keep her pets alive for 8 more weeks. 8 weeks. For 2, I won't say what type of pets they were to keep it anonymous. But I remember thinking, I don't have the money to keep any pet alive at $6,000 for an extra 8 weeks. And they told her maybe she'd get another year out of them. Maybe. She got 8 weeks. But she could also afford it. So on the veterinarian questionnaire, should she be able to write, I love my pets a lot, and then I'm the sucker having to write, well, I guess I don't love them very much because I could not afford that. I think they had cancer. I mean, they were really sick, both of them. And they were aged and all that. So I guess that makes me a worse pet owner. I would just like to know if anyone knows, why would a vet ask something like that? And of course, she chose to go to a different vet. Because I just felt that, I mean, you don't ask questions like that. Unless somebody can convince me why I need to know that. The only thing I could think of is that it had to do with marketing. And how much they thought they could get out of you. And I had a problem with that too.
I spent $452 at the vet just now. They have heard from the certain adoption agency that I got Bo from. They were like, oh, well, you know what? They don't really treat their dogs a lot when it comes to the parasites and all of that. So I'm sure Bo probably has a parasite and gave it to Bandit. And so they did a fecal test on Bo because I brought his sample. And they were pretty much like, all right, whatever Bo has, Bandit has, so we're just going to kind of go forward with that.
And it really doesn't matter if you get them from a shelter or if you get them from a breeder, whatever. You always have to plan room for unexpected medical care. I mean, chances are if you get them from a really reputable breeder and the place is clean and they've got all their initial shots, sure. But to me, it wouldn't matter whether it was a rescue animal or whether it was an animal from the breeder. You gotta have extra budget for that initial, jump start of medical care.
They gave me this bag of Purina veterinary diet because it's a bland diet, but it also has nutrients in it. So they were like, just do this instead of the chicken and rice with the ProViable for 7 more days or until this bag runs out between both of them. And then once it has 2 days left, I'm going to incorporate their actual food if everything goes well. And they gave them a anti-diarrheal gel to kind of slow them down for 24 hours.
I remember, family, this is double the bill. She has 2 pets.
So they both got that in there. And with the fecal sample and all that, it was $452 for all of it. And I just adopted Bo for $400, so that's super cool. And then if it comes back as Giardia, which they're thinking it is, they'll call me tomorrow. And the nurse was so awesome. She was like, girl, don't get it here. It's way more expensive. Go to a Tractor Supply and get this Canicure if he does have Giardia. And if he doesn't have Giardia, we'll have to go through other medications.
And all that stuff, I mean, I know my budget just doesn't have it. I don't have it in my budget to just do experiments. I mean, not for a pet. I love pets. Don't get me wrong. I swear. Someday, maybe when I retire, I'll have a little Shih Tzu running around because then I can be with the pet all the time. It can still have daycare because, I think that's good for pets to socialize with other pets. I mean, I'm sure I'm a blast to be around all day, but Fifi may want to look at something else, okay, other than just staring at mom. But in your head, you got to think about what your budget is. And folks, here's the bottom line. There's a reason animals are given up to shelters. People can't afford them. They can't, that initial, it's kind of like, not that I'm equating them to vehicles, but let's put some reality into it, okay? Oh, that initial car, you're willing to do anything to get it, right? You're going to make all the sacrifices, and it's great. It has that new car look, feel, smell, whatever. Even if it's a new to you used car. And then what happens after you have it a while? Now it becomes a chore. Now it becomes maintenance. Just something to think about.
But shout out to her, because that would have been another $200 for the panicure if I bought it today. So she was like, just wait.
Okay, so we're here at the vet. They took her back and they did the blood draw. So they're telling me that with today's visit, with the visit, the blood draw, and the clipping of her nails, is $276. That's not including the medication she'll get for this, the medication she will get for the seizures, or the antibiotic she's going to need for the tooth. And I asked them if they took payments, and they said only if I applied for care credit, when I've made payments here before. So I'm kind of stressing out a little bit.
Care credit, for those who may not know, it's basically a payment. It's a way to pay for your medical care. It's actually really easy. At least I've had no problem getting approved for it, and it can go into the thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay, 10,000 would not be unusual for care credit. I have a few thousand that I can use on it, but care credit is just that. It's not a MasterCard or Visa card. But think of MasterCard and Visa card without the MasterCard and Visa card logo, and you can only use it for medical on yourself, an approved loved one, whatever. It's great in the sense of, you don't have an emergency savings account. Hey, I'm just saying, okay? It's great when you don't have an emergency savings account, because you can put it on care credit. And oftentimes they have a period that they do not charge interest. So in this case, care credit, for those who don't know, is actually, in my opinion, okay, it's mathematically a whole lot smarter than a Visa or MasterCard that might start popping you with, 10, I've even seen 35% interest. Take your pick. But care credit is very specific to the patient, so it follows you as the patient. It may or may not be transferable to dependent, so you have to check on that. But you can actually apply for it right through your medical office, dentist, apparently the vet, okay? Or you can possibly even apply for it online. I believe it's just carecredit.com. C-A-R-E, and then the word credit, carecredit.com. I only spell it out because sometimes on microphone or TV, it can be hard for people to understand, all right, what I'm saying. Words can sound a little muffled, but that's what it is. It's actually, I think care credit is really good. It saved my hiney when I had a $2,000 dental bill. See these teeth? Yeah, they all natural. I've been told I could do a Crest commercial, but they don't come for free. They have my teeth. Okay, they're all mine, and they're in mint condition, and they have come with quite the bill. Root canals, crowns, you name it. I've had to do all of it. I have porcelain, and it's all clear, so you don't see silver, yada, yada. Care credit really, really helped me out. And this is a care credit commercial. No, it's not, all right? But care credit can be really good. I have to be honest, I did not know care credit extended to your pets. I always thought care credit was just for you. I'm thinking that part of the reason this vet office doesn't want to take Visa, MasterCard, and all of that, it's less hassle. Care credit is really, really simple. It probably doesn't have the paperwork and also the rejection of Visa and MasterCard. It might be much, whereas Visa, MasterCard, you can easily call in and try to dispute. So something tells me that this vet, not saying this TikToker has done anything wrong, but something tells me that the vet has either had issues with people, bouncing checks. Does anyone even write a check anymore? Or they've had payment issues, and care credit is straight and direct. And your vet or yourself, I didn't even know it went to pets, so this is new to me. But you can literally just do it right smack at your doctor's office. So if you have, you do need decent credit, not excellent credit. I was able to get it with my credit score somewhere, I think it was in the mid 600s. I don't know if you can be down to 400, you might be pushing it, but it did help me out. And I had a year to pay with no interest. And that's the neat thing about care credit. There's usually a block of time that you can pay with no interest, but you best make sure it's paid before that time is up. So little Fifi here has to go on care credit, family.
But that's what they told me. They won't let me do payments. She basically said, well, you let me know what you want to do.
Yeah, because when the vet or the doctor's office gets paid by care credit, they get paid immediately up front. You, as the customer, are then responsible for paying back care credit.
She said, if you want us to go ahead and test her blood, but I have to have her blood tested to get the medication. So,
can you afford this stuff in your budget, family? Can you afford it? And yes, and there are people who can. But I guess the question becomes, can you comfortably afford it? Can you sacrifice part of your rent to be able to pay for a pet? Can you sacrifice part of your food budget? Is it going to keep you from getting your car repaired? I know when I was in my I was in my mid-20s, and it was a mistake on my end. I bought a little puppy, not really understanding just how much work a puppy is, and I had to give it up after 3 weeks. I couldn't deal with it. I didn't have the resources. I've always liked small puppies. So think, the most it was going to be was like 6 pounds or so. I don't even remember what breed it was. I could not tell you. I think it was just generic puppy. Okay. Kind of like the runt of the litter. And, I had to give him up. This is when pet stores were allowed. Actually, it wasn't a pet store like at a mall. It was like a standalone pet store. It wasn't like a puppy in the window pet store. That's been outlawed for decades. But, it was at a pet store. I had to turn him back in after 3 weeks. I was not physically, mentally, emotionally, and certainly financially ready to take care of a pet. And then another time I had to give a pet up was a cat that I had purchased. Yes, this was in my very early 20s, and I was in college. Again, talk about young and dumb. And I took the cat in to just get shots and stuff. Got its initial shots. Took the pet home. Pet got sick. Took the pet back to my vet. Not emergency. And keep in mind, I'm in my early 20s here. Took the pet back. Took the cat back. Stratus. And the vet at the time said it's going to be, I think it was like a couple $100. Now keep in mind, I'm 57 now, so this is my early 20s, okay? Which would easily be $1,000 today. And the vet was like, it's going to be $300, that we need to do. And of course, when they start at that, it doesn't mean that's going to be the only bill. And I literally, through tears, I looked at the pet and said, I can't take care of this cat. Now, keep in mind, okay, this is just as I'm getting ready to round bankruptcy number 1 with credit cards. All right, so you can see where my emotions were at. And I just said, I can't take care of this pet. I said, I don't have $300. People, I didn't even have, 69 cents at times to get a cheeseburger at McDonald's. And I'm racing to Washington Mutual before it went defunct about 20 years ago. I'm racing to Washington Mutual Bank to put quarters in my checking account. So the check that I wrote and planned that it wouldn't clear till 2 nights so it doesn't bounce. You see what my life was doing at that time? And I had to turn over the cat to the vet because I literally could not afford the vet bill. So the vet took the cat, called me up a few days later, said the cat was fine and had been adopted out. It was after the incident with the cat and the dog, both of them which were in my 20s. I vowed that if I ever got a pet again, it was going to stay with me until it passed. I was not going to ever put myself or a pet through that again. And in my early 30s, so fast forward probably about 7-8 years, I got Sparky, my Chihuahua. Got him at 6 weeks, and I took care of him till he passed 13 years later. And I told myself I didn't care what it took. I was never, ever going to, I won't say call it irresponsible. I don't think people get pets and they intend to take them to the Humane Society. They intend to leave them at the vet because they can't afford them. But we can be so naive about what it really takes to take care of a pet that we wind up backing ourselves into a corner where we have no means to take care of one. And I just told myself that was never going to happen again, ever. And it didn't.
Right now we're at 276, and that's not including the medication, and I am stressing out.
This tells me she does not have an emergency savings account for the pet. She doesn't have an emergency savings account. And much like humans, I think you probably need a couple thousand emergency savings. I would not feel comfortable without a minimum $2,000 savings account for a pet at all times. That's an emergency account. That's not the regular account to take care of little Fifi. That's an emergency savings account. 2,000.
Because I have to have Rio done too.
She has a second dog. I forgot about that. Yeah, so she has 2 dogs.
I have the bump on his neck looked at.
This is Lily, and welcome back to Finance February. I'm going to tell you guys exactly how much it costs to own a kitten because we just got one. I made an entire spreadsheet breaking down exactly how much life is going to cost for her first year. I used the most cost-effective methods to calculate, and on the right side, you're going to see the annual cost. Starting with a health cost, the initial vet visit is $50. Vaccines and testing you can usually get in a kitten package for $214. We did ours through Petco, and it costs $214 for the whole package. Includes all the important vaccines, deworming, and microchipping. And of course, you're going to want to spay or neuter them. Based on our research, Lily's spay is going to be somewhere between $400 and $600, so we just took an average for $500. Insurance, this is about $35 a month, so about $420 for the year. Next up, food. This is going to vary like crazy depending on what you decide to get for your cat. For dry food, she has this mix from Akana. It's $22 for a 4-pound bag. A bag usually lasts her about 40 days, which means that she needs 9 bags to get through the year, making it just about $200. And you must feed your cat wet food. This one is $60 for 24 cans. She eats half a can a day, which means that she needs 182 cans for the year, making it $455 for the year for wet food. And then we're also factoring another $50 for treats and catnip. Again, we're using like the lowest numbers. Next up, we have a lot of supply costs. This will include your food and water bowl, cat bed, cat tree. I took some averages off of Amazon. Toys for $25. You can get this entire bundle on Chewy for $25, so that's what we did. It's a pretty good deal. And you're definitely gonna want a breakaway collar as well as an air tag. Now let's talk litter. We use the world's best cat litter, and truly it's been the best one that we have tried. This one leaves the least amount of odor. A 32-pound bag of this is $36, and it lasts about 3 months, making the litter for the year about $144. Litter box, you can get a basic one for $25. That makes our grand total $2,233.
You got that in your bank account, family? A little over $2,000. And that's if everything goes right and you don't spend more than $25 at Chewy for toys. You got $2,000? And remember, it doesn't include emergencies. So I would want a $2,000 emergency account. So this costs a little over $2,000 plus a $2,000 emergency account. Yeah, I would feel comfortable with $5,000 owning one pet. One. $5,000 is what it would take me to feel comfortable. $2,000 approximately for emergencies, the $2,500 approximately for the first year's care. One pet. When I tell you that pets are luxuries, it's not because I don't like pets. Clearly, I love them. I've had cats and dogs. But the bottom line is when you hear people say, I am living rock bottom. Meanwhile, I've got Fifi in the back here. You are not living rock bottom until you've done it the way I've done it. I had to walk away from the vet without my pet. I did not have the money. I didn't have it in credit. And I strongly believe my aunt is a Humane Society rescue volunteer, and she's done it for forever. And I'm talking, she's rescued cats by the thousands over a 60 plus year, 70 plus year of rescuing. She said to me, and this is coming from coming from an animal rescuer who has literally rescued thousands over figure 60 years, rescued them in her home, cats. She said to me, owners should never go broke over their pets. You love them until you can't afford to take care of them. You try to be as responsible as you can. You try to set up a budget, your little savings, yada, yada. But she goes, you never sacrifice your home, the health of your children, the medical needs of your children. Now, we may sit there and go, oh, well, that's common sense. Not as common sense as some people might think. You might think it was common sense for me to know that a cat might have a emergency and I should probably have a $500 savings account somewhere. Remember, this is when I was in my early 20s. I didn't even think of that. To me, like I said, it was like buying a new car. It's all the fun stuff. Oh, I want the toys and the catnip and the little fish on a stick and all of that. My brain did not process just how expensive medical care is for a pet. It is as much as it is for children, for adults at times. It never processed. It didn't process it. My fault. My bad.
Why do people get so angry that veterinary medicine costs money?
I think they get angry because we want a pet to fit into our life. Like it should come in a certain package that fits into our sleeping hours, our waking hours, our work hours. We want a pet that fits into our budget also. It's just a thought. I'm going to let her speak all the way through because I think this is the last one. I think I could be wrong.
I just saw a TikTok of this girl so upset because it was going to cost $60 to get her dog's clay paw print after it died. And while I do agree that $60 for a paw print is like excessive, we do them for free at my vet clinic. But all the comments were just complaining about the price of euthanasia and cremation as a whole. Like, do people not realize that that stuff costs the vet clinic money? It's not free for us to euthanize your dog. We have to pay for the medication to do it. And it's not free for us to have them cremated. I think most vets probably outsource their cremation. So therefore, we're not even determining the cost of the cremation. The cremation services are determining the cost of the cremation. But on top of that, we have to pay to store your animal for you after they're euthanized before they're cremated. And having the freezer and paying for the electricity that keeps the freezer running costs money. And it also, you're paying for our time. Like, it takes time out of our day to euthanize your animal, to bag up your animal, to tag your animal, to contact the cremation service. All of that takes time and costs money, and that's what you're paying for.
All right, folks. Well, this was informative to me because, like I said, I didn't know care credit worked at the veterinarian clinic, but I guess it does. I hope you enjoyed this. I will do more veterinarian budget and stuff. It's entertaining to me, and I just absolutely love looking at the cute little cats and dogs as we go through this. I hope you will consider subscribing. All right, folks, my time is up, and so is yours. You have a fantastic night. Good night, everyone.